Hey, so today's March 31st, and I'm going to be reviewing the three trades I took today, which were on Boeing first, Boeing puts, then I took NVIDIA calls, and then I took Boeing puts again. Yeah, so let's get started with Boeing first. Just looking at the higher time frame. Boeing was choppy for this entire area, but recently it caught momentum to the upside, and after a couple of days, we basically gave everything back. And now we're starting to bounce from this stacked demand area, but again, there's really no bias to the upside or downside, so just playing the levels and zones. And let me go to what else? I took NVIDIA. Right. So NVIDIA's been trading in this range, dropped, reclaimed, and it's finally starting to move out of this wedge pattern. So maybe starting from tomorrow, next week, NVIDIA will finally have some momentum to the upside. So yeah, I was a little bit biased to the long side. I wasn't really looking for a short position. Um, so let's go into an intraday chart now. Okay, so if we go to a 5-minute chart, I like to use a 5-minute time frame. The first play I saw was Boeing, and right out of the gates, ES and NQ had this massive rally up. NQ invalidated 3 hour supply here, and then it invalidated 3 hour supply again. Same with ES, we invalidated all of these demand zones, and yeah, just ignore that. So yeah, ES invalidated all of these demand zones, and right around here, I noticed that Boeing actually had relative weakness compared to the market, because while other equities were flying through the moon, Boeing was the only one which pushed above high day and couldn't hold value. We were forming some sort of wedge pattern inside of supply, and right here, um, I was actually confused whether ES would rally or drop. But if you go down to a 1 minute time frame on ES, uh, obviously it didn't work out in hindsight, but what I noticed was this inverse head and shoulders pattern. Just draw it out. So we got the left shoulder, we got the head, and then we have the right shoulder right here. So my entry was actually a little bit late, but I mean the main confirmations were relative weakness, breaking out of this wedge pattern. I thought ES was gonna drop from supply because of the because of the head and shoulders. My bad, not inverse head and shoulders. But all of those things led me to believe that Boeing would drop. Um, so my entry was actually not good. I entered somewhere down here because that's when I really started to see the head and shoulders pattern play out for ES. So I mean, a better entry in hindsight would have been at the top of this 1025 candle, but I entered somewhere around like 1024 near the bottom of it. Not the complete bottom, but somewhere around here. And another good thing is, I mean, you can see volume starting to increase again. Volume increased on the breakout. The next candle also held volume. So I entered somewhere around here, and uh, right when I should have scaled one out here. My final target was this 253 key level, but um, after we bounced here, I was thinking to myself that okay, if you go back to a 5 minute time frame on ES, I don't really think ES wants to head down. I mean, we had a chance, sellers had an opportunity, but buyers stepped right back in. So I scaled one at the bottom of this 1035 candle for a small win, and then I sold my second contract for break even, because at this point, I mean, the head and shoulders pattern didn't work out. ES was starting to rally, and most likely base inside of this 2 hour supply and move higher, and that's exactly what we did. So nonetheless, it was a good trade, good confirmations. Market just didn't support Boeing today, so that's why it didn't work out. And even now, you can see that Boeing still has relative weakness. Like ES is rallying. I mean, we're probably gonna test 4,000 maybe end of day, but Boeing's not even close to its high day. So that's just something to keep in mind about relative strength and weakness. My next play was on NVIDIA. NVIDIA was showing clear signs of relative strength. And I mean, if you compare it to some of the other equities like uh, AMD, Apple, we had this move up, but we just started trading sideways. But with NVIDIA, it was different. I mean, NVIDIA is up 4%. Um, so I first started to become interested in NVIDIA when we broke this wedge pattern right here. We had 90-minute supply here, but we broke this wedge pattern. So I was thinking that, okay, if NVIDIA can hold this and push up, we're probably going to have momentum up. The reason I didn't take this wedge pattern is because, yes, NQ was strong, but we were right next to supply. And in hindsight, yeah, we ripped through supply, but given this amount of data, given this amount, or not even that, given this amount of data, um, it doesn't look like it's going to reject, but I don't want to take my chances that NVIDIA is going to head higher just because we have supply here. So NVIDIA rallied, it pulled back here, and at this point, NQ was starting to base inside of supply. So sellers, even though there were sell orders placed at 3-hour supply, buyers were just too strong today. So yeah, we pulled back here, and now I was interested in taking a break of the 531 key level. So see if I can. Yeah, so the 531 key level was right here. At this time, ES was also starting to base inside of 2-hour supply. Let me get the full picture for NQ. Same, NQ was starting to base inside of supply as well. So I actually took it not at 531, but I took it a little bit before 531, just because I saw volume starting to increase again, and volume increased on this move up. And usually I've seen this pattern all the time where we move higher on high volume and then we pull back on lower volume but still hold value. So I was willing to take the break of the 531 key level, and I actually took it a little bit before. But as soon as I took it, I noticed that NVIDIA lacked momentum. What I mean by that is you obviously can't tell it from this 5-minute candle, but I mean, we would start to come up, then we start to come down, and then up and down. Even on this candle, I mean, we tried getting above high day and we just couldn't, despite volume. So I've traded NVIDIA before, and I know that if there's volume like this, we should have straight green candles up with very little selling pressure. And volume on NVIDIA increased, so we should have seen something similar to these green candles. But I mean, we really didn't. This was just a back and forth action here. So I actually exited my final position as we closed red on this candle. So I entered about here and I exited about here. Good risk management. I think I lost like $30 on 2 contracts, which is nothing for, I mean, the spreads on NVIDIA are like 20 cents. So that's just a good trade. Good risk management. Very good confirmations. Market supported it, just didn't work out. And I mean, NVIDIA worked out later, but at this time, I thought that the market would move higher. And even though the market did, NVIDIA decided not to, which is fine. Okay, my last trade was on Boeing. I took Boeing puts again. And I'll tell you why I decided to take puts, even though the market was in an uptrend. So, yeah. One second. Just trying to get a clearer picture. So at this point you can really ignore this wedge pattern, and I don't like to play low day and high day breaks but I am willing to play pattern breaks and intraday resistance. So Boeing had key levels at 258 and 253. Um, so I noticed we had support right here. We opened, we dipped, we held it once, we came back, we held it twice, and we came back, we held it a third time. So this is a clear area where buyers are not at the time willing to push it above or willing to push it below. So the reason I took Boeing puts right here was because ES, yeah, so Boeing follows ES or SPY. So at this time, ES was heading down, and I noticed that we had what would have most likely acted as support, which would have been previous high day, and that's exactly what we did. But at this time, we were coming down, and I thought that this bullish uptrend that we have, just draw down, this uptrend that we have, it could be broken if we can get below previous high day. And if we got below previous high day, then this bullish uptrend would have been broken. And because Boeing showed relative weakness and broke this intraday support level with increasing volume, there was a high probability that we would come down and test this 253 key level and maybe even a move down to 250. So yeah, I entered somewhere around here. My stop was a 5 minute close above uh, what now is acting as resistance. But as soon as I saw this candle close, not this candle, as soon as I saw this next candle on ES act as support, I was a little bit cautious. And yeah, Boeing moved down lower while ES moved up. So that's why I took both of my contracts off on this push down. Yeah, I missed this push lower, but the reason I took profits right here was because ES started to hold previous high day as support. And that's why it's so important to look at ES and NQ while you trade, because if ES theoretically broke below this support level and this trend line, then Boeing would have tanked, and I would have not sold here. I would have scaled maybe somewhere here and then scaled lower. But because ES held previous high day as support, I exited my position right here. So yeah, I think all three were good trades. Obviously, I didn't get the follow through I wanted, but I mean, that's just trading. Yesterday on Tesla, there was amazing follow through. So that's just how trading goes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. As long as you have good risk management and understand the market as a whole, you should be fine. I made $20 on this first Boeing play. I made maybe I think it was like $50 on the first Boeing play, and I took a $30 loss on NVIDIA just because the spreads were wide too. That's just how NVIDIA is. So yeah, those were my 3 trade recaps, and I'll probably trade tomorrow, and yeah, we'll go on from there.